Parashat Behar Bechukotai, an incredible double parasha with so much content. Parashat Behar talks about Shemitah. We all know about Shemitah, how the land lays fallow, no work is done by the farmers in Israel, there's no growing, there's no planting, there's no plowing, and you just sit back and rely on God to cover you for that year. Parashat Bechukotai, im Bechukotai telechu. If you follow my path and you follow the Torah mitzvot, guarantee you a tremendous reward, both in this world and the world to come. 6 years ago, when I was living in Israel, we were in the midst of a war, often known as the Gazan War, or Operation Protective Edge. The barrage of rockets were ongoing, and the 8th day of the war, the Arabs and the Israelis finally were attempting to come to some sort of ceasefire. And about half an hour before the ceasefire, there was suddenly an alarm. Let's rewind a couple of days to what happened before. There was a group of religious Jews who owned a factory in Bnei, a matzah factory. They needed to make sure that that year they would get appropriate crop grains which were green enough, not fully ripened, where they'll be able to store it so that the next year, which would be Shemitah, they would have enough to be able to use for the matzot of the year. So they needed 2 years stock of grain, that year and the following year. And they looked high and low, they couldn't find anything until they eventually came to Otev Azar, a place just very close to the Gazan border. They come and they negotiate with the farmers. They say, look, we need this grain. The farmer says, no, we want a good price. They said, don't worry, we'll give you a good price. They said, look, you won't have to pay for anything other than the cutting. We're good. We'll buy the whole stock and you won't have to worry about anything. Fantastic. They closed the deal. They went ahead and they stored it. They have their grain for matzah. Meanwhile, 2 days later, the field is completely cut down. No grains. Completely flat. You know, in Israel, they have these cameras in midair, with cameras on air balloons, and suddenly the woman soldier who's manning the post is looking at the camera, and to her surprise, she sees 13 terrorists coming out of nowhere. She looks closer. 13 terrorists had come out of the very first tunnel which they had built into Israel to come and carry out a terrorist attack. She immediately sounds the alarm. 90 seconds later, a rocket comes and goes straight at the tunnel. Half of them were killed and half of them went straight back to where they came from. The tragedy which was averted was a straight open miracle and recorded in all the papers, and it was such an incredible story how the mitzvah of Shemitah, how because it was Shemitah, they had to make sure to get these grains earlier on, a year and a half before. And because of that, this tragedy was averted. An incredible, incredible live miracle which happened in our day and age. Im Bechukotai telechu. If we keep the mitzvot. It's difficult, Shemitah. You would think Shemitah, it's such a hard opportunity to go and close your farm. Don't do any work. Let the plants and the fruit and the vegetables and whatever you're taking, just let them do the work. Let the poor people come and take whatever they want. Where are you going to get your parnassah from? Where are you going to get your sustenance from for a whole year? And the answer is, if God asks us to do something, it must be good, not only for us, but for the land. Scientifically, it's been proven that when you leave the land fallow for an extended period of time, it's actually good for the land. We're in a very similar situation, but can you imagine, we've been in a situation of not having parnassah for 6 to 8 weeks already. Can you imagine a whole year? Just trust in God. Leave it to Him. Im Bechukotai telechu. But if you keep my Torah, says God, I guarantee you, you do what's right. You do your bit, and I'll do my bit, both in this world and the world to come. Shabbat Shalom.